Welcome to ExplorinVictorian. Today, we're going to be discussing how the Victorians took care of their teeth. Aside from commercially available products, there were a lot of recipes published in books and magazines for tooth powders and mouthwashes that you could make at home. And these are what we're going to look at today. We're going to discuss some of them from one of my favorite books. It's called Consult Me, and it's full of recipes. You may have seen me talk about this book in other videos. So before we go any further, this is where I want to stop to add a disclaimer. A lot of these recipes are not safe to use. So if this is something that you want to try, this recipe or any other recipe, make sure that you understand the ingredients that are listed in them, and make sure that if you have some sort of medical condition that these ingredients aren't contraindicated to use. Things like essential oils, tinctures, different supplements, things like that may not be a healthy choice for some individuals. In 1868, a man named Shaw wrote a book called Odontologia, commonly called The Toothache: Its Causes, Prevention, and Cure. And in this book, he even mentioned then that a lot of the tooth powders and tooth washes that were being sold at the time or were recommended as homemade remedies were not safe to use. Either the ingredients weren't safe, or they were over-medicated, or they were just contraindicated in individuals. And that's something they understood even then. So having said that, we're going to look at the recipe that I've picked out to use. I'm going to read it to you as written, and I'm going to explain to you how I've changed it just a little bit. All of these recipes commonly need a grit, something gritty, chalk or cuttlefish bone or charcoal or soot. Not super rough, gritty like sand, but something to polish the teeth. A lot of these recipes have something slightly acidic in them. And again, Shaw recommends not using things that are strongly acidic. A lot of these use something that are mildly acidic, like carbolic acid, salicylic acid. Cream of Tartar is one that you see, and that's the one that I'm going to mix into mine. And then there's some sort of medicine introduced into them. They use myrrh, camphor, something to give sort of an astringent effect and to give it that sort of medicated, clean flavor and smell. So let's look at the recipe that I've picked out. And like I say, I'm going to tell you the recipe and then how I'm going to change it just a little bit. Cuttlefish, 3 ounces. Cream of tartar, 1/2 ounce. Orris root, 1/4 ounce. Powder all fine, mix and add 10 drops of tincture of myrrh. So that's the recipe I'm going to use. And here's how I'm going to change it up a little bit. So remember I mentioned that we need some sort of very fine abrasive. A lot of these recipes call for prepared chalk, which is just calcium carbonate. This one calls for cuttlebone, cuttlefish bone. And if you have birds or you go to the pet store a lot, you may have seen these sort of oval-shaped white bones to give to birds, and they gnaw on them, and it helps with their calcium. And so when I looked that up, those are naturally comprised of 85% calcium carbonate. So instead of getting a cuttle bone and powdering it myself, I just went ahead and got this supplement. It's 100% calcium carbonate, and it's something I picked up on Amazon. So I'm just going to use this. The recipe calls for cream of tartar. Again, this is nothing special. I just got this from the grocery store. Now, this is where I'm going to reference back to Shaw. The orris root that we mentioned, I am not going to put that in. Orris root has some very, very nasty side effects if it's ingested. It is something that is absolutely not safe. So I'm not going to use it. But I did pick up the myrrh tincture. This came from Amazon as well. You put some drops of this in water and drink it, and it's supposed to help with some ailment, I'm not sure. But I'm going to mix up my powders and put 10 drops of this in there and mix that up. So these are the 2 toothbrushes that I'm going to use, and I'm going to see which one is preferable. They're different from each other. This first one comes from South Union Mills. It's got a bone handle on it, and the bristles are fairly stiff. These feel like boar bristles. This toothbrush came from Logston & Co. It's advertised as having a wood handle. This one, it looks like it's bamboo or some kind of wood. And the bristles on this are fairly soft. And I like that the bristles are soft and it's got a smaller head. Different books from the time, such as The Mouth and the Teeth from 1879, recommend that when you select a toothbrush, you should select one with softer bristles and not to use one with very stiff bristles. But I'm going to give them both a try and see which ends up being the better one for me. Okay, so I've tried this experiment for a week, and here's what I've learned. In his book, The Mouth and the Teeth, White mentions that some toothbrushes are too stiff and too large. And while I don't mind how stiff the bristles were on this one, I agree this one was a little bit on the big side, and my preference was the smaller one. The one from South Union Mills, it is a very excellent reproduction of ones that I've seen from the period, both extant ones and catalog advertisements. But I do think my preference was the Logston & Co. brush because it's smaller. White mentions just using a tooth powder once a day. He says that he recommends it before resting, so your evening brushing. He said for mornings he would recommend soap like Castile soap or carbolic soap. I didn't quite take this experiment that far. I did just use regular modern toothpaste in the morning. And it dawned on me, all of our modern dental products, they're all very minty. Everything is mint flavored. White mentions using just tepid water midday. I did do that. And then I used my tooth powder after dinner, just a little bit before bed. And actually overall, I feel like that got my teeth cleaner than the modern toothpaste did. And the other thing about this is with that tincture of myrrh in it, it's a very medicinal sort of flavor. It's not just overly minty, it's just very subtly herbal, medicinal. I don't know how to describe it. It's very different from what you're used to. And it produced a clean scent, but it just wasn't overwhelming of mint. I started off using water to wet the end of my toothbrush with before I dipped it into the powder. But then about halfway through, I got the idea to just put a few drops of myrrh, just 1 or 2 drops of that myrrh tincture on my bristles. And then I dipped it into my tooth powder and brushed my teeth. And I think that made the whole experience even more pleasant. It was very much even more herbal flavored. And then I rinsed my mouth real well after I brushed. And it really wasn't unpleasant. I didn't know what to think going into this experiment, but overall I'm pretty pleased. I don't think I'm going to switch over entirely, but I could see me doing this every so often, just because, like I say, I think it got my teeth a little bit cleaner. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I tried to make it as entertaining as a video on dental hygiene could be. If you did enjoy it, please comment down below. Let me know if you want to see me keep trying these old home recipes. Please like and subscribe to keep seeing our content, and I'll see you next time on Exploring Victorian.